You are listening to the Hiking Radio Network, where we talk the walk with shows by hikers, about hikers, for everybody.
Mighty Blue on the Appalachian Trail, the ultimate midlife crisis. Join Steve and his guests every week as he staggers from Georgia to Maine.
Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. This is Mighty Blue on the Appalachian Trail. I'm your host, Steve Adams of Mighty Blue. I'm actually recording this outside a coffee shop near Route 10, so if you hear traffic, sorry about that. And I'm having a bit of trouble with my microphones. Hopefully this is working, but we'll see, won't we? I had to make this 3-hour detour to get the show out on time. By the way, it's not a 3-hour detour, it's a 3-hour delay. That's how long it takes me to get the show out. So I've been sitting in the coffee house writing what I want to say. Now I'm recording it. But it's going to be quite a short show with no interviews this week. That said, I've had an interesting couple of days, so I hope you enjoy this latest report as I close in on New Hampshire. But before we hear how these past few days have gone, let's hear from our sponsor, Polar Steps.
If you're heading out on a long hike this year, which I am, I've got something I think you're going to love. It's called Polar Steps. It's a travel tracking app that's going to become a favourite with hikers. You set your start date, let it run quietly in the background, and it maps your entire journey automatically, all on your own beautiful spinning 3D globe. And don't worry, the tracking feature uses about 4% of your battery on a single charge, so it's not going to kill your phone when you're out there. You can add photos and short journal entries as you go, so your map shows you where you were and your words remind you of what that day actually felt like. There's a light social layer too. Family and friends can follow along, or you can keep it completely private. As every hiker says, hike your own hike. And when you're done, you can relive the whole thing in the app or turn it into a stunning coffee table book with your route, stats, photos and stories. And did I tell you that it's entirely free to download and use? The only time you'll be paying anything is if you decide to turn your trip into a book. That's Polar Steps. Track it now, treasure it forever.
Day number 119, which was last Sunday, Lottery Road, miles 1692.9 to Upper Cold River Road, miles 1696.6, 3.7 mile Nero slack pack. So for those of you paying attention and knowing that I'm trying to do 80 miles a week, this week I did 89.4 miles. So I got a 9.4 mile credit, making a current credit of 68.6 miles, which is nearly a week in credit effectively. So why such a short Nero? I planned the next day to get to over Killington and to Kent Pond, where a kind listener had offered me a night in the Meadow Lodge, which was pretty darn nice at the Kent Pond. And Betty actually raised my attention to this, that I could, if I did this Nero, instead of having a 20-mile day the next day, I'd have about a 16-mile day, which really does help. That difference between 16 and 20 miles, man, that makes a difference. So I said, as long as she's happy to do it, I was happy to accept. And so we decided to just, I'd have a lie-in the following morning. And I did. I was in bed till about, 7:30. And, it is so nice not to have to get up every day when the alarm goes, pack up your tent and, put everything away. It's often dark out. Well, it's always dark outside now at 5 o'clock. And it was really nice to have that line, and I thoroughly enjoyed doing that. Bruce had made a big breakfast, which I absolutely woofed down, even though I didn't need the calories to walk the distance I was walking on this day. It was still nice to have the breakfast. Betty had arranged for me to interview Polchar and Forrest at 10:30 in the morning, and that's the interview that I actually played in the last episode. So I was able to spend about an hour or so starting to prepare my podcast. For those of you who don't know, because this is a short that I can talk about it, I suppose. Preparing my podcast means a number of different things. What I have to do first off is write, or at least write some notes about each day, because I've told you all before that the days do tend to, I don't know, run into each other from time to time. So it's nice to have some notes so you know what to talk to. Sometimes I write out what I'm going to say, but sometimes I just give myself notes and I talk to those notes. So I spent about an hour starting to prepare the podcast. Then I went to meet up with Forrest and Polchar, and what a nice fella he is, and what a great thing that he's given his son. They were just 3 days out of it, so I really kind of caught them before they, I guess, really worked out what the hike had meant to them so far. And it was nice to meet them, and we sat outside a restaurant that his wife owns, and we just did the interview there. Really nice to meet him. I'd actually dressed in my hiking gear, and I had my slack pack with me. And Betty drove me back to Lottery Road, and it was really an easy hike. In fact, I highly recommend it. 3.6 mile hike on a Sunday morning. Man, that would be nice. And I did it actually in less than 2 hours. And the only thing I really recall from the hike that was memorable for me, I crossed a river, and as I passed a couple, they'd kind of stripped down to their underwear to wash themselves off. And a lady called Laurie called across. She said, "Hello, hello." And she looked at me, and I could tell what she was going to say. But actually, I couldn't tell because she said something different. Normally people say, "Are you Mighty Blue?" She said, "Do you know Mighty Blue?" Which was strange. I said, "Yeah, it's me." And I think she said because I was dressed in blue, she knew I'd be hiking around now. And so we chatted. Her in her underwear, me in my hiking gear from across the river. Kind of funny, really. Hi, Laurie. Anyway. Then I climbed up onto a beautiful mini ridge, which was skirted on both sides by a river. And yeah, it was pretty spectacular up there. Really enjoyed it. I was early for Betty, but she soon showed up and took me back to their home where I put together the podcast. Took another couple of hours to do it. So really, this does take about 3.5 hours to put together. And well, hope you appreciate the effort. Then we went to dinner at that restaurant where I'd interviewed Polchar and young Forrest that day. And yeah, we had a really nice time. Day number 120, which was Monday, Upper Cold River Road, my mile 1696.6 to Mountain Meadows Lodge, mile 1712.8 for a 16.2 mile slack pack over Killington Mountain. This was to be my last day slack packing with Betty, so we loaded up my full pack and, of course, my day pack. Bruce and Betty both suggested they could slack pack me all the way to Hanover, and I must admit, I was very tempted. But I felt it was kind of important to get back on trail in my tent in preparation for what was coming up in New Hampshire. You definitely get used to slack packing in much the same way you get used to carrying your full kit. And I'd had 2 or 3 days, 3 days, I think, slack packing, and I just wanted, knowing that it was all going to get a bit tougher from here on out, I wanted to make sure I was, strong enough and I guess conversant enough with my full pack to make sure I could do this. So I decided that I turned down the opportunity of a slack pack and just carry on getting back to my tent and carrying the full pack. But he still had another long drive to drop me off at Upper Cold River Road. And we stopped at the Shell station and picked up a couple of breakfast sandwiches and a couple of shredded potato thingies with egg, deep fried, all for me. I managed to inhale these before we reached the drop-off point, and after a brief hug, Betty and I had parted ways. But she, heroine that she is to me, went on to drop my pack at the Meadows Lodge Hotel. This was a treat from one of my listeners, by the way. I'm only going to use your first name, Todd, and thanks, man. By the way, yeah, it was absolutely fabulous. Todd wanted to meet up with me and have dinner, but in the end, he couldn't be there, so he paid for an overnight stay for me and dinner, which was a real treat. I started out having left Betty, and within 100 yards, I came to the sign that said, Katahdin, 500 miles. It's a very significant milestone for northbounders, and I remember it, obviously. Though, of course, I've got to tack on an additional 400 odd miles at the end of it. So I'm about 900 miles to go. The early miles, or at least the early half a mile, was fairly flat with just a slight incline, but I knew we were starting to climb as I reached the shelter. I can't remember the name right now, but it looked pretty cool. They had a fireplace in it. Somebody even left a chair there. There was what looked like a new privy and plenty of spots for a tent. Leaving that behind, I came to a dirt road and walked for about 500 yards on that before turning left back into the forest, and the real climb up Killington started. Wasn't too bad for about, I don't know, until about a mile from the top, I suppose, 2 hours into it. Then the rocks and the roots collided as if coming up with a perfect formula to slow me down. Despite that, I made it to the top, or the nominal top, in just under 3 hours, which wasn't too bad for a 5-mile climb. Nuke was up there sitting down on one of the tent pads because there's this shelter with this stony floor and some bunks on it, in it rather, and then some tent pads behind. I'd stayed on the tent pads when I came in 2014, I think it was. And so Nuke was there. He was deliberating whether or not to take the Blue Blaze to the summit of Killington. Now, I had never taken the Blue Blaze to the very top. My friend Deb had messaged me the previous day that I should take it. Channeling my inner Dara, and if you listen to the podcast any time, you'll know what it means. Actually, what it means is that if you've got a chance to do something, kind of do it, because you may not come this way again. So I decided to go for it. And it was it was pretty hellish, actually. A steep rock scramble, and all I could think of as I went higher and higher was, this is going to be a nightmare coming down. I made the top and was rewarded with yet another spectacular view. Thanks, Deb. Before heading back down very, very slowly. Turned out not to be as bad as I'd expected, but it was still pretty hairy. Anyway, I pushed on. And then the reroute. I recall getting down last time, and I think the seem to remember the long trail then leaves the AT, and then you're a short distance away from the inn at Long Trail, which I really wanted to go and have a beer. But they rerouted it, and it seemed like making a change for change's sake, and we kind of faffed around near the top before seeming to make any progress at all. But then we started the long climb down to Route 4. Crossing that road, I know it's a sparse, dangerous road, I still had a couple of miles before reaching Kent Pond and Meadows Lodge. It was a very bougie stop for a through hiker, and I was determined to enjoy it, ordering excellent takeout sushi and treating myself to a couple of glasses of New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc before heading to bed. Thanks, Todd, for that unexpected treat. Day number 121, which was Tuesday. Mountain Meadows Lodge, mile 1712.8, to Winteri Shelter, mile 1728.6, a 15.8 mile day with my full pack. This was a real test for me, to be honest with you. 4,600 feet of elevation versus 4,000 feet of descent at a 10.3% grade. That suggests straight away there's a lot of climbing, obviously, and the grade. We've been having some quite nice grades recently, 5s and 6s and 7s. This is 10.3, which means that there's more up and down, more to do in terms of climbing and coming down. I always prefer early morning climbs, and our biggest climb of the day was coming pretty early on. It was about 11 or 1,200 feet and about a mile and a half. At first, the trail trended downwards for about a mile and a half, passing thundering falls, which I could hear but not see. And there is a blue trail to take it, but this time I didn't channel my inner Dara, and I ignored it, and I could see it vaguely through the trees. But then you keep going down, then you hit the Thundering Falls boardwalk, about 1,000 feet long with lovely marsh views. It's a very nice start to the day. We crossed the road and the climb began. I've got to say, I struggled right from the start. I do this thing in the morning of mapping out my route for the day on far out. And I guess there are benefits of knowing the ascent you're going to be doing during the day, but it can also become a bit intimidating. So knowing that I had 4,600 feet of ascent to go kind of put me off, really. And after this first big climb, I knew that there were many more climbs, though shorter, ahead, and I knew that I'd be exhausted by the end of the day. It didn't help that I hardly saw anybody through the day. These meetings or just interactions are important to me as a means of getting my mind off the climbs. Apart from a flattish, though still trending upwards, section of the first big climb, after the first big climb, the rest of the day was a series of climbs followed almost immediately by downhills, giving hikers no chance to recover between the two efforts of either pulling yourself uphill or slowing yourself as you plummeted downhill. It felt very much like the roller coaster to me. Having slack packed for a few days, I was aware of my pack weight, particularly as my food bag was way too heavy. My guess is that the overall weight I was pushing 40 pounds. And, in the past, I've been pretty good at managing my food bag, coming into town often with no food in my bag at all. But for some reason, I had bits here and I had bits there and had a bit too much. And, I've not done well at managing my food bag. I like to think I manage my hike okay generally, but really, this food bag, I've got to sort this out because carrying so much in your food, it's not great. I came to the side trail to the lookout, which is a cabin with great views where the owner allows you to stay, but there's no water and there's no privy, so that's not a really great place to stay as far as I'm concerned. And I didn't take the trail to see it. I've seen it before, and I wasn't going to stay there. I needed to get to the Winturi shelter as it was getting quite late by now. Fortunately, the path widened, the rocks grew less numerous, and I sped up, getting to the shelter at 6:30 in the evening, with plenty of time to set up my tent and prepare food for the night. Luke was at the shelter, and we had a little chat. I was exhausted, but pleased with my efforts, and retired to my chair inside my tent for the night. Well, I was a bit short and sweet, didn't I? There's no question that slack packing makes the hike easier, and getting my full pack these past few days has pushed my endurance quite a bit. But the plain fact is I'm still putting in the kind of miles I need to achieve my goal of getting to Katahdin by the end of September, pack or no pack. Ultimately, that's all that really matters at the moment, and with or without my pack, I'm putting in those hard miles. I suspect that slack packing won't be so available in those next two states, so I'm glad to know that I'm still strong enough to take that full pack on my back. I'll see you next time.